All right. Well, hello and welcome everybody who's attending this live training, as well as many of you who will be watching the recording. I did get several messages from students that now's the time of finals and things like that. I really acknowledge and appreciate that. I want you to do well in school and that you could also watch this recording. So as it says here, this training is all about the biggest challenge leaders face and mastering success habits. If you applied and joined Electa Society, I actually use this as one of the sample trainings. So some of you may know some of the key slides I might mention in the beginning. However, it's about the other key exercises that we're going to do, as well as the other success tips towards the end of the training that I really want to give everybody. And hopefully that you will tremendously benefit. So again, just kind of tips for the rules for the training. If you can, please keep your camera on. I'd love to see you and engage with you. If you don't have any comments, you can share in the chat, or I may call upon you. If you don't have anything to share, you could just always say I'm pass. And again, if I always mispronounce your name, because I'm terrible with names, I acknowledge it. Forgive me. It's one of my weaknesses, but I do want you to make sure that you correct me so I get it right. So what are we going to learn in today's training? We're going to discover the biggest challenge leaders face. We'll also discover the most important questions when doing a task that you should ask yourself, and how to say no without disappointing others. Many of you, if you remember from my high performance communication, may be very agreeable, and you may as student leaders accomplish so much more than the given person. So you want to take on more and more. And so how can you actually say no without everybody getting upset and for you feeling bad and then just take it on and then regretting it later or having resentment? So it's a 4-step process that I want to teach all of you. Then there's going to be some successful management tips, a life-changing exercise. Now, I use those words carefully because this, I believe, could change your life. And some of you may be already doing it, but not to this level of degree of this exercise. But if you implement it and do it, both of them, it is going to be a game changer for you. Discover the traits of the most successful leaders, most successful individuals. I'm going to discover the new definition of the most important leadership quality that I'm going to share with all of you, and then how to instantly gain credibility when you screw up, because we all make mistakes. So those are the learning outcomes. As you can tell, a very comprehensive training. So what is the biggest challenge leaders face? So if you all would like to share, what do you think is the biggest challenge? You could either post it in the chat, you can unmute yourself. I love to hear what you all think it might be. Some students say that it might be communication. Some people might say it's a lot of different things. What about Justin? What do you think it might be, the biggest challenge leaders face? Go ahead, Justin, you can unmute yourself. All right, while we're waiting for Justin to unmute, what about you, Hannah? Well, thanks so much for joining us. What do you think is the biggest challenge leaders face? Hannah, maybe. All right. Okay, there you are. Hannah, can you hear me?
Can I answer in the chat?
Oh, you answered in the chat? Yeah, absolutely.
No, I asked if I could. I didn't do it yet.
Okay, no problem. You can actually share in the chat. Absolutely. For the sake of time, I'm just going to keep going just because I want to cover so much stuff. Yes, please share in the chat what you think is the biggest challenge leaders face. Now, I can tell you from my personal experience, I have managed several hundred interns, college interns. These are the best student leaders from around the country, students that were involved with different clubs, different organizations, trying to train them to help bring leadership programs to the campus. And then in addition to that, I've also managed, over 40 different employees at my job. And guess what? There is a pattern, that there is one big challenge that leaders face. And here's what I believe that it is. It is time. And as you all know, one of my favorite Broadway plays is Hamilton. And there's a song towards the end about Alexander Hamilton could have done so much more if he only had time. And I think that's the case for so many of us, right? How many of you want to do something and don't have enough time to do it? Or even if you have some other things where you say, well, I want to improve on my communication with the group, I want to be able to delegate more effectively. Well, that may require time for you to actually take the time to communicate or actually follow up with your team. And Hannah, I'm reading here, control over the group of people who respond differently to people of the leadership position. Yes, I can actually see that, right? So for example, trying to get people to do certain things, right? Then people may respond differently based on their leadership position, based on their personality style, 100%. And one of the things that I keep always training student leaders is whenever you kick off a new year, you're elected for a club or position, that one of the most key ideas is to talk about expectations. And I've seen so many student leaders get frustrated with their executive boards because why? They ask them to do something, it's their responsibility. They follow up and say, hey, did you do that? And guess what? They're going to say, oh, I'm so sorry. What? I got busy, or I didn't have a chance to do that. And so again, this theme of time keeps coming up over and over again as it relates to challenges with leaders. So I always like to share this story of Brian. That's not really his name, but he was the, let's just say, president of the chess club, and he was very involved. And he applied to the internship. So he was going to start a chapter of NSLS, my former company, former organization. And he was amazing, right? Very outgoing, very expressive, had a lot of leadership experience, served as, like I said, president of the chess club and involved in other different things. And so I had to train him. So he went through a training, and now it was time for him to take action steps towards the internship. So one week we had a meeting, and then we covered everything and say, okay, you're going to do X, Y, and Z, correct? Yes, I'm going to do that. So then the next meeting that we have for a check-in is to say, did you do X, Y, and Z? And we get on the phone, and what does Brian say? Oh, Tim, I'm so sorry. I've been so busy. I can't help it. Like there was an exam that I had to study for, and I had to pull an all-nighter. And I'm like, okay, I understand. You're a college student. You know what? We're all entitled to have their rough days. Okay, so what are you going to do and put in place moving forward to make sure that you complete? He's like, don't you worry. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to do it. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm trusting you. Next week, what do you think happened? Hey, Brian, how's it going? So did you do all the things that you said? Oh, no, Tim, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get a 4.0. I have so much homework that I've assigned. And so I said, okay, time out. All right, we need to have a serious talk now, because first you already gave a reason why you couldn't complete all this stuff. And then you said you got it. And now I'm following up with you and you're not doing it. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm angry or upset. I want you to think of me as your mentor, right? I said, imagine I am a cheerleader. Yes, you can imagine me in pom-poms and everything like that. Like, I'm cheering you on. I want you to succeed. Now, let me be real with you, Brian. What if you were working for a company and I was your manager and I asked you to do X, Y, and Z and you didn't do it? What do you think would happen? And Brian said, well, I think you'd be really upset. I said, well, yes, I'd be upset. I'd be frustrated. And depending on the job or the position and how much relationship I have with you, I might even fire you, right? Or I give you a warning, if this happens again, and we're going to get rid of you. It is serious. We have to count and rely upon you. So I decided to do something with Brian that I'm going to do with all of you today as part of these exercises to really tackle this so that he can overcome these different obstacles. And so we started going over all the things that are on his schedule, what he's involved with, all his different obligations. And one of the things that we discovered, which I think all of you can really resonate with this, is that he's overcommitted and he has to actually prioritize, right? Out of all the different things that he's involved with, what is your priority? And so one of the things, once we started going through the list, I said, you're doing all these activities Is this in alignment with your career goals? Is it essential? Are you still learning and growing? Again, many times people do things, they join different positions, they do all this stuff because they think that it will actually, make somebody happy, or they feel like they've already done it before. And that's the case with Brian. He basically was serving as the president of the chess club again. And I said, listen, is this your second year? He's like, yes. I'm like, maybe you should actually take this off of your plate. And he's like, no, I can't do that, Tim. I basically, I promised the advisor that I would serve as the president again, and they didn't have really anybody to do it, and I was the most skilled. And so I made a promise and I was able to do it. And so I said, okay, fine. I understand that. But let me ask you this. Are you learning and growing in this position? Well, he said, not really, because I've already done it before. Okay, I got it. And I said, well, I'm actually going to give you a different perspective. And this is what I like to share with all of you. And what I told Brian, I said, not only is this not a priority, and that this is not an alignment, you've already added this to your resume. You already had this experience. Yes, you can do it faster than others, but the different perspective I want to give you is you're actually depriving somebody else from serving as president. He's like, what do you mean? And I said, listen, part of leadership is about you passing the baton to give other person an experience and a chance to do well. And so right now, I'm going to go out on a limb. And I said, don't take offense to this, but I can tell just based on the experience I'm having you with this internship, right, that you're not fulfilling the duties of this internship to your best of your ability. You still showed up for the calls. Great. Congratulations. But you're not doing it with gusto. You're not doing it with zeal, and you're not doing it to the full responsibility. Are you doing that with the chess club? And he had to confess. He's like, well, I'm doing good enough. Okay. So one, how does that serve all the members of the organization that you're part of, right? And number two is, what if there was another person that wanted to have that opportunity? And he could say, well, maybe there was another person or not anybody wanted to take it on. Well, I said, that's the opportunity for you to help find somebody. Ask your advisor, et cetera, et cetera. Give them the opportunity to do it as well. So you have to actually learn how to take stuff off your plate and not do everything. And that just goes over to the next topic of overcommitment. So many people are overcommitted and they're trying to do everything, and you shouldn't be doing everything. I once had a business partner, and he was a founder of a company, and I was serving as his executive coach. And what ended up happening is he wanted to set up a website for the company. And so there's different ways to do a website, right? And he was using this one platform, and he wasn't a master at doing websites. He's one of those entrepreneurs that tries to do everything. And I asked him to do something, and when I followed up with him the next day or whatever, he basically couldn't do the task. And I said, why didn't you complete that task? He says, because I spent 15 hours trying to figure out how to update and make changes to the website. And I said, oh my goodness. All right. So I said to him, listen, how much is your time really worth? And again, people can quantify it. They can say, I'm worth $10 an hour, $20 an hour, $100 an hour. There is a unit of time of how much you get paid. And I said, how much do you think your time is worth? And he said, okay, let's just maybe say $100 an hour. All right, let's just use that for simple math. I said, you spent 15 hours on a website that you don't have really good experience in. And if you were charging that to somebody else, they would owe you $1,500, or you would need to be paid $1,500 worth of your time. Don't you see how crazy that is? That doesn't have any website experience, went to GoDaddy, drafted up on Microsoft Word an outline of my website, and then went to GoDaddy, spent a total of 5 hours, and they even supplied me with pictures. And I went boom, 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 right? And now I had a website. Now, could you say it's the best website? No. Could it be better? Could I have better images? But so many people spin their wheels doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So I told him, you should always ask somebody with more time and skill than you to do that task. And again, it's also really frustrating because many times, in this case, going back to Brian, they believe, and it may be true, that they say, well, I could do the task faster than somebody else. I said, yes, but it's still taking time away from you from doing other, maybe more important things. And wouldn't it be better to actually train somebody to do something? Yeah, invest a little bit of time, but then you can rely on that person moving forward to do that. And then guess what? If they have to step down, they could train somebody else. This is why CEOs can't do everything in every company, is because they have to depend on people. So as leaders, we have to get rid of this whole idea of overcommitment and take things off your plate. And I always love sharing this idea, is that I have met too many people that love to say, oh my goodness, I'm so busy, Tim, I don't have time for this, and I don't have time for this, and woe is me. If you only knew what my schedule was like. And what I call them are workaholic martyrs. And the reason why I call them that, workaholic martyrs, is because they're actually trying to get empathy and say, oh my goodness, you're so amazing because you do all this work. And, wow, you're such a busy, busy person. No, that's not how a good positive way to develop a reputation. The best way to develop a reputation is to actually do what you're supposed to do. And it means not overcommitting, because when you start getting into the corporate world after you graduate in your job or whatever it may be, some of you already have full-time jobs, part-time jobs. When I started serving on an executive leadership position, I would never use this excuse, oh, I'm so sorry, boss, CEO, president, I don't have time to do the task that you're asking me. They're like, what? You don't have the time? There's 24 hours a day. Are you serious? What I would do is I would say anything could be done, but it's all goes back to the question before about priority. So it's like, is this in alignment with the priority? So if I would have my boss or my manager and they would say, hey, I have this task for you, can you please get it done? I would say, okay, sure. When do you need it by? What's the deadline? And if they gave me some like quick deadline, or I would recommend one, I would say, hey, listen, I'm working on X, Y, and Z. Is this task that you're asking me more important than others? Should I drop everything I'm doing and get this done? They might say, oh, no, Tim, definitely get those 3 things done. Do this afterwards. So that's a very efficient, high-level executive that I want each and every one of you to be, and not somebody that goes around and says, I'm too busy, I don't have enough time. Well, if that's the case, then make time and take some stuff off your plate and start saying no a lot more. And so this is what happened when I was sharing with Brian. I said, Brian, the best gift that you can do to yourself is to say no. And I love this line that I learned about is that every time you say yes to an opportunity, you're actually saying no to another opportunity. And I like that kind of mind shift that does that, because guess what? You start to realize that, there's a lot more that you can do, and you could achieve a lot more if you just focused and said no to all the other distractions and just did what you want to do. I always use the example of, hey, if you had to chop down some trees in a forest, how fast can you chop that tree down, right? Well, most people are chopping this tree, chopping this tree, chopping this tree, a little bit, little bit, little bit. It may take them a month to actually chop down several trees. What if you could actually just focus on one tree and just go boom, 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 boom? Well, guess what? That tree would be chopped down in a couple of hours. So this is what I want to share with you. And this is what I was trying to tell Brian. And he says, yes, but how do I say no to people when they're asking a request. And I said, it's very simple. These are 4 steps, and not many people are really taught this. And I'm going to go over them. And the perfect example is somebody asks you, let's just say they wanted to go to the movies with you. What do you typically do? You'd say, oh man, I love to go with you, but man, I got to study for this test. I really wish I could go, but I don't think I can go. If I said that to my friend, what do you think they're going to say? Go, come on, Tim. We should really come. You can study later. You still have the whole weekend. Blah blah blah. It says, convince me, convince me. So what I share with people is do these 4 things. Thank them for the request. I really appreciate you asking me to go to the movies because I love going to the movies with you. However, give the affirmative no. I definitely cannot go with you to the movies today because I made, and this is number 3, give a reason why. I made a commitment to study for my tests. And then sometimes people would just thank them and give the reasons why. No, I want you to avoid saying, I don't think, I probably can't. You have to be very affirmative, like that there's no ambiguity. Once you give a reason why and explain to them why you can't honor that request, most people could stop right then and there. But I always like giving the 4th step, which is give support for the request, meaning, hey, you know what? Have you asked Johnny? Have you asked Mohammed? Have you asked Lisa or any of our friends if they can go to the movies with you? Because in the end, I'm actually being empathetic. I really want to help them. I want to support them in terms of getting the request. And they'll just appreciate that gesture of just trying to help them, even if you didn't actually really help them. Now, again, I want to stop here because Justin, did you raise your hand or have a question about this? I saw your hand up earlier before.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Oh, well, this question was in response to number 4 that I saw on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I'm wondering, why would we have to give a supporting reason if number 2 clearly states like to give an affirmative no? So
yeah,
is number 4 like kind of like to cushion the affirmativity, or?
Yeah, you could view it that way. In the end, we're talking about diplomacy, right? And so it could be anything. Number 4 does soften the blow if you're saying, no, I definitely can't do it. I appreciate that. And sometimes busy people just do that. And what I'm trying to be is sensitive to the relationship of the people that I'm talking that are making the request. Now, the give support for the request can be anything. You could say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate you asking, good luck with finding some other people, for your request. I hope you can find it. And that maybe that is the way that you're just ending it, right? Hey, I'm showing support that I hope you find your request so that you may not have to get intimately involved and says, here, let me brainstorm for you all the ways we can help find you somebody to go to the movies with. But, in that example, you don't have to take on that complete obligation. But so does that really answer your question, Justin? Does that provide clarification?
Yes, it does. But now let's say that it's not a request that you want, or that you really like, you don't want. So is number 4 necessary in that situation? For example, yeah, I think you get where I'm coming from.
Well, I laugh because I thought that it reminded me of my wife made a request to me the other day. So I'll give you the exact example, and I'll share this example. I'll share what I shared with Brian, and I can imagine it might be a work request, but that might be a little bit harder to say no. That's why I say always go back to, hey, if your boss has asked you for something and you're worried that you can't accomplish, then you communicate effectively with your boss and say, hey boss, I have all these different tasks that I'm doing. Where do you want me to fit this in this priorities? Because again, maybe you don't want to say no, right? But you'd have to give me very specific examples. So one of the things that my wife and I were working on a garden in our backyard. And she uses me, like to lift heavy things or dirt, move dirt, whatever it may be. So I told her, on a certain time, I'm going to be working and things like that. So sometimes she gives me requests, hey, Tim, can you help me out with this? Can you help me out with this? And so I said, okay, but let me focus. I need to do what I need to do. Even though we made that agreement, she comes back in and she opens the sliding door and says, Tim, can you please help me, lift some dirt and take it away? And I said, this is what I said to her, right? I said, and it wasn't mean about it. And I'm like, wait, I just communicated to her that like I needed to focus and work. And I said, do you want me to stop working right now so that I can leave and get up and go with you and shovel dirt at this moment? Is that what you want me to do? Or would it be okay if I can actually finish what I need to do? And at 6 o'clock, once I'm done working, I'll be able to help you with the dirt. Let me know. And so I said it in that way because, again, I have a relationship. I didn't thank her for the request. I didn't give an affirmative no. It was me asking the question, but I was actually in this example giving support for her request. I can't do this right now. That's what I'm kind of trying to insinuate. I'm working, I'm focusing, but I'm free after 6. That was me offering support, offering suggestions to help with that request. So I hope that is clarifies a little bit more, Justin. But in terms of Brian, going back to this example of, I said, take stuff off of your plate so that you can make room. And he had already made a commitment to the advisor. And the advisor says, yes, please serve as president. And he continued to do it. So I said, why don't you use this 4-step formula that I've just given you on how to say no in order to support the role? And I said, we could mock it and I can go through with you. And let's give an example. You go up to your advisor and you say, hey, advisor, number one, thank them for the request. I really appreciate your confidence in me in terms of serving as a president. I know that you asked me to serve as president again so that you can ensure that the organization continued. And I really appreciate and have the trust that you have in me. Number two, I just wanted to talk with you and share with you that I definitely can no longer continue to serve as the student president of the chess club. Let me explain why. I was just working, signed up for an internship, and I was working with my mentor, and I started to realize that I am completely overcommitted. I've said yes to too many things, and I have too much on my plate, and I'm no longer serving the roles that I've signed up to. I'm not even doing my full best for the chess club that I'm doing right now. And it's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the organization. However, I don't want to leave you hanging. I don't want to just quit and say it's all upon you because I did make a commitment. What I would like to do is I would like to ask for your help in helping us find a replacement, somebody that can take over this position. And over the next month, once we find them, I will train them, I will show them how to do, and I will transition them so that I can effectively step down. Can you help me? Is that okay? Does that work for you? And then who knows what the conversation could be. The advisor could say, yes, of course. It could say, no, oh my goodness, I need you. Or they could say, maybe I need you for a month and a half or 2 months. Can you give me that? And maybe it's a negotiation, right? But whatever it may be, at least you've done those different things. And I told Brian, I said, listen, Brian, if you do that, even if the advisor was disappointed, like, man, this guy, Brian, was great. I wish I could have him for longer. Do you want to know something? I said, that is going to develop such positive, feedback and gives you such a positive reputation for the fact that, number one, you're truthful, honest, right, about your commitments, and that you care about your commitments and you don't want to disappoint and you want to serve the organization. Next one, that you're trying to help out. Like, that advisor is going to say in their head, wow, look how amazing Brian is. Not only is he taking responsibility, owning it, he's also helping to find solutions. And I said, that is something that you could do. And I think he would respect you for doing it. So again, these are the things that people don't really realize, but if you feel bad, if you're very agreeable, you end up overcommitting and running into these problems. And so I would like all of you to avoid them. So uh, now let's jump into the next topic, because there's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about. Time management. So I like to hear from some of you. What are some of your tips that you personally use to help keep track of time management, to help you make you more effective? So who would like to share? Or I might just call on some people. Princess, thanks for joining us. Do you have any feedback or your tips that you use to be very effective at your time?
Hey everyone. I'm actually so guilty at this because I'm very bad at time.
Well, glad you're here now, right?
But what I do is like I try to set it up in my calendar, and I have like online calendar. I don't think that's working well for me. I think I would have to have an actual like calendar that's in front of me that I could see, that I could write on, because I've been trying to switch up like the formatting, like so it'd be easier to open up when I'm on my online class and everything like that, but it's not working. So I don't have tips for you guys.
First of all, I know I think using a calendar, and that's going to be one of the tips I'm going to be talking about, but you're absolutely right. Maybe a calendar itself isn't enough, right? Unless you're looking at the calendar every second, just because you put it somewhere and never looking at it again isn't really going to help you. So actually, let me share with you these 3 tips, and then I'm going to give you a bonus one just for you, Princess, and other people who may actually experience the same one. The first one is always assume double. So however long you think a task is going to take, whether you think it's going to be 30 minutes, I want you to lie to yourself. Tell yourself in your mind, no, this doesn't take 30 minutes. I'm going to assume it's going to take 1 hour. Even though deep down inside, it's only going to take 30 minutes, book it for an hour, right? And here's the reason why. How many of you as college students have been saying, you know what? I'm gonna write this paper. I'm gonna be able to finish it tonight. I know exactly what I need to write. I already have an outline, and I just need to type it up. Right? You have the outline. You're like, I can do it in one night. It take me a couple of hours. So that's what you think it's gonna take. 3 to 4 hours. What ends up happening is once you go sit down at your computer, yes, I can see that, Justin. It could be procrastination, but maybe there's a whole bunch of other things that you didn't think about. Oh, wait, I'm hungry. I need to eat right now. Oh my goodness, I'm getting a call from my mother or something, like she needs something. Or you sit down to start writing the paper and you're like, oh crap, wait, even though this was my outline, I need to know a reference for that. Let me look that up in the book. And so now you're going back to pull out. Things are taking a lot longer than you really expected. Yes, and Elizabeth, 100%, you get distracted. So even though you could have said, well, if I had an uninterrupted time for 30 minutes, I would have gotten done in 30 minutes. But guess what? You were delusional, that you think that you couldn't get distracted. Now, I personally do other things to prevent myself from getting distracted. For example, right now, prior to this training, what did I do with my phone? I put it on do not disturb. All right. And so, because I don't want any notifications, I even notified my wife. I said, wifey, her name's Michelle. I said, letting you know I have trainings tonight. I will not be available for this time. She's like, okay. So I'm doing all these other things so that I can stay focused. But going back to this example is, if you actually would have said, okay, I think I could write this paper in 4 hours, but you know what? Let me assume that it will take actually 8 hours. And so if you actually could think about it as 8 hours, what you could do is block off some time Thursday night from 4 hours and Friday night 4 hours. Otherwise, what do you most typically do? Let me pull an all-nighter. Oh my goodness, I'm just going to work on it until I finish it. But that's because you didn't properly assume. And this goes with every single thing. Hey, I'm trying to get to work. Hey, it only takes me a half an hour to go to work. Yes, but guess what? You didn't assume that there was going to be an accident on there. You didn't assume that there was road construction outside your home on one of the streets, and you didn't anticipate. You have to anticipate all these different things so that you assume double so that you're prepared for those things. Here's the second one. And this is what we were talking about, Princess, is live by the calendar, die by the calendar. I put everything into my calendar. And so you've done step one, which is really good. It's like, let me add it into my calendar. And, and even if you look at this example, this was my actual calendar on February 11, 2021, when I helped develop this training. Notice that it says garbage from 6:30 to 7. Now, do you really think that it takes me a half an hour to take down the garbage? No, it actually probably takes me 10 to 15 minutes, like depending if there's like cans I need to recycle and things like that. But you would be surprised when I get distracted, something's happening or whatever it is. And so I basically book that time. I'm following through with all these tips that I'm actually sharing with all of you, because guess what? Maybe some raccoons spilled over the cans and I have to clean that all up. That wasn't anticipated, right? Maybe the bag rips and I have to like repackage it. All these different things that could be distracted. I get a phone call while I'm taking down the garbage. My wife needs something that took 5-10 minutes. So guess what? If somebody says, hey, Tim, I need to speak to you at 6:30 in the morning, I'm not going to take that call. Or if I know that I have all my calendars filled up. So I'd like you to think about your calendar as a sort of Tetris, right? Anytime you're going to want to do something or take on a new responsibility, look back at your calendar and like, okay, well, where am I going to fit it in? And if it doesn't fit in, you got to say no, or you got to shuffle things around, right? And some people say, well, Tim, that sound like a prison? Like every time you do this calendar, like you do this for every morning, and do you do it on the weekends? I say 100%, absolutely, I do. But with this discipline, I have a certain amount of freedom. So, for example, on the weekend, I work 7 days a week. No joke, with all the different things that I do. And I basically told my wife, I said, from in the morning, I have my morning routines, my workouts and all this other stuff, and I'm going to work. After 3 p.m., I'm going to be free. So that means if we're going to do any activity together, go out or do something like that, we know 3 o'clock and afterwards, I have nothing scheduled, right? And it doesn't mean that it's always like that. I could sometimes give her a heads up if something's happening and if I need to make a special exception. But now I have freedom. I don't have anything. I completed all my tasks. So fall in love with the calendar. Now, Princess, here's the tip that I was going to give you to help you, especially if you have trouble in the calendar. This took me, I would say, several years, like I would say about 2 years to master this skill. And it really, really works. If you take on the responsibility and have a lot of important things on your calendar, you may have multiple things. I use my phone. I basically say every morning when I wake up and I have everything in my calendar, if there are any important meetings, I say, hey, SIRI, I don't want to say it because I don't want to wake her up. I said, please set alarm. I have a meeting at 4 o'clock. Set alarm for 3:55 p.m. Okay. And now some people say I've done that, but then I'm working and then I turn off, I snooze the alarm and then I just go back and then I miss my meeting or I'm late. I said, you have to choose the alarms that really work for you. Some people need a 15-minute one. Sometimes people need a 5-minute one. I have literally set alarms to have 1 to 2 minutes prior to a meeting or call, because I get that alarm. It's like, hey, I got to wrap up. I got to finish up because I'll get distracted otherwise. So, Princess, is that tip helpful? Have you tried that, or would you consider doing that in the mornings if you had any other important meetings to ask to set your alarm to make that happen?
Yes, I'm all ears. I'm definitely going to do that because actually prior to this, I also had like a meeting and I was like, oh crap, and I have a meeting at 5:30.
Oh man, that's so funny. All right. Well, yes, please do that. If you have to go, got it. Watch the recording. But here's what I was going to say is that whether it is, should I use a digital calendar? Should I use a handwritten calendar? Guess what? I don't care. And guess what? It doesn't matter. Why doesn't it matter? It's because whatever system you use, you just have to use that system, right? So don't have multiple systems where I have a written calendar, I have a Google Calendar, because then you're going to have to be checking cross-reference of everything. Choose one and make it done. And I remember serving as an executive coach, advising different people, and people, Tim, should I buy this super journal? Should I buy this super planner? And I'm like, I don't care, as long as you use it. Don't spend a lot of money if you could have a Google Calendar set for free that syncs with your phone, right? To me, that's my preferred method, because, you know, Google will actually remind you 30 minutes before a meeting something's happening, and I really appreciate that. You know, but if it's some other important things, set that calendar room, that alarm. I always use alarms. Okay, the next one, always schedule a follow-up. Here, what do I mean by that? Guess what? The reason why I was so successful as a manager and getting people to do what I needed them to do is because I did something that I'm going to invite all of you to do. Assume that everybody's going to screw up. Now that may sound terrible, right? You know, but it's effective. I'm only teaching you the actual principles. They do this in sales, and many times you will reach out to somebody, you send them an email, you're like, okay, I sent them an email, I'm assuming that they're going to get back to me. Actually, they may not get back to you. They may read your email, oh, I need to write to that person, and then they never get back to you. And so what you have to actually do is you have to set up reminders. So for example, if I'm managing a different team, if I know that the deadline is Friday or a week from today, I may send out several reminders to do it. Now, some of my other managers would say, Tim, are you really babying people too much? You know, like, you know, giving them these reminders and things like that. And that's a fair criticism, because you know what, you do want to have people that take ownership and responsibility. But because I'm so conscientious, because I want to get it done, I want to empower my people, and I want to make my life easier. So what I would do as a manager is, like, let's say I needed some report or something like that all my team members had to do a week from today. First of all, if I gave them an assignment and it's due in a week, that's like a lifetime. You know, there's things that are people happening every single day. Everybody has so much distraction. So what do? I send a calendar invite for an all-day event, right? I say, deadline, this is due at this time. Then I tell them verbally, then I send an email, and then at some point on my calendar, I'll put, okay, on Thursday, the 11th, I'm going to send a deadline reminder. So I send that. So guess what I do? That only took me seconds. I've already verbally said it. I've sent it via email. I've reminded it, and I put a calendar deadline on it. If I have a team member that says, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't do it, they're not going to be able to give me that excuse. I didn't know. I forgot. I can't remember. I'm like, I sent a reminder here. I sent a reminder here. I said it verbally, and I put it on your calendar, and you didn't find it. So what it is, it just makes things operate. It's like a smooth machine. It's like a clock. It's working out. Everything works, you know, the way it's supposed to. And so also when it comes to sales, it's, you might leave a voicemail, you might send an email, but you have to do a series of follow-ups, because guess what? People are busy. I think we have more distractions now than we ever had before. Right? You have phones, you have, Instagram notification, everything's on notification, notify this, here's a text message, get a call here, send your email. It's like, whoa, we are bombarded with these things. And that's why, you know, we set up this Telegram channel. I respect all of your time so much that's what I said. Look at these videos and learn to shut off all notifications. You choose when you want to look at that or not. Now, there may be an impact on that, but listen, I'd rather you be empowered to focus on what you need to do than having other people's distractions. So again, I use this sample calendar because many times a good way to follow up with, whether it was sales or whatever it may have been, is you have to send weekly reminders to remind people to do stuff. And I said, listen, A lot of you who are watching this or watching this recording, you joined Electus Society, you loved it, really wanted to be a part of it, and then you started to get distracted, right? You're like, I have assignments, I have tests, I can't make it. That's why I send up catch-up emails. So, hey, as a reminder, you can catch up. I've had a couple of students to say, oh my goodness, my schoolwork is so busy. I'm like, watch these recordings after your schoolwork is done. You know, if you graduate in May, I will give you some reminders and give you some time early in May to actually complete these trainings. Why? Because I'm sensitive. I understand everyone's busy, but guess what? If I didn't do those things, if I didn't send those reminders, out of sight, out of mind. So again, these are the things that are help you going to be much more efficient and manage your time. Okay, so now comes this activity. All right, so this is, let me explain to you a little bit about what I did. And I did this with Brian. So what we did is I'm going to give you all a spreadsheet. And we're going to do this assignment. Now, here's a copy of the link of the spreadsheet. Now, it's a Google Sheets. So once you send the link, it's a view only. And what I want you to do is go to File. Once I send the link, I want you to download it as an Excel so that you can start typing in it or make a copy for yourself, whatever it may be. So here it is. Here's the view on. Oh, wait, was that the one? Hold on. I don't think I sent you the right one here. Here we go. There we go. All right, that's a Google Doc sheet. So I'm going to click on this. I think everybody can see my sheet right now. And in case you are watching this recording or you know, you can't be doing this exercise right now, don't worry. In sheet 1, I listed all the instructions on how to do this exercise, but we're going to go to sheet 2. And what I want you to do is I just want you to take 5 minutes, right? I got it. Excellent, Susan. So you download it and you start saying, just do column 1. Now, some people say, oh, should I fill in column 2? I'm like, no, no, no. Pretend column 2 doesn't exist. Column 3 doesn't exist. I want you to stay just focus. And I want you to answer this question. What are all the things that take up time in a given day for you? Okay. Now, again, I would say if you don't know where to start on the weekend, right? Maybe on Saturday morning when you wake up, when you're not in class or whatever it is. What do you do in the morning? Okay, I get ready in the morning. I sleep. Okay, I eat my breakfast. Like, think about all the things. I go to church. Whatever you do, write it all down. These are all your duties and responsibilities. And then I watch Netflix at night. I go swimming practice. I play this. I do that. I work out. Add them all there. Now, and then do Sunday, then do Monday, then Tuesday. The more comprehensive you do this list, the better. And then also, just because if some people always have some trouble pulling up the sheet and downloading it, editing it, I will also put in here, I'm going to actually allow you to give you the Excel file right here. So this is the actual file itself for some of you to download. And if anybody of you still having trouble, because I always know that there could be tech issues or glitches and things like that, you know, you could always open up your own spreadsheet and just start filling everything in the column. But there's a reason why I want you to do this spreadsheet is because it's going to help do math for you, because I suck at math. And if things can make math easier for you, let's do it. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. Do that right now. I'm setting the timer. Let's go. And if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. Let's do this. Now, some of you may say, Tim, I can't put anything else in. What else should I add? I always like to say, well, did you put everything in there? Did you put in Elective Society? Did you put in, I'm assuming you put homework in there, test, extracurricular activities, anything that you can think of, put it in there. But what do you do on Monday? Is it the same thing you do on Friday or Saturday or Sunday? So get it all in there. For those of you who actually finish up a little bit early, I want to show you what the next step is, because I feel like some of you may have done this really fast, or, whatever it may be, you could even pause the video if you're watching this on recording, and then you're ready for the next instructions now that you've finished. So let's go into and remember, if you don't finish now, we can always do it later, right? But here's the challenge. Are you actually going to do it later? That's the biggest thing. So column 2 is really about actually calculating how much time does that activity take on average in a given day. So for example, if I was going to say sleep, I was going to say on average, maybe I sleep 8 hours a day. Now, some people say, Tim, 8 hours, that's like a dream. That's like, that would be so wonderful. I can tell you that this training is also about mastering success habits. One of the best things that you could ever do for your health, for your cognitive function and everything, is to get your sleep. And the studies are in, they've all concluded it, and you got to get it. And even if you say, I can't get that in through one night, well, then take power naps. Anything that you could do to catch up in the sleep. Okay. It's very important. The next thing is like eating breakfast. So some people would say, how long does it take you to eat breakfast? Maybe some people might say it's 15 minutes. But what I wanted to do is, why don't you put down change it from, instead of minutes, to how much it would be in hours. So I even put a little cheat sheet above at the top. So if it's 15 minutes, say 0.25 hours. Okay. Eating breakfast or getting ready in the morning, maybe that might take me a half an hour. So if it's a half an hour, I put 0.5 hours. If I commute to work and that's 1 hour, okay, that's 1 hour. Oh, but I commute on my way back home. Maybe that's a separate entry, right? You'd put 1 hour there. Wash dishes, 15 minutes, so 0.25. I park, study, maybe you study for 45 minutes, that might be 0.75 hours. Okay. The reason why I love Google Sheets and Google Forms is because look what you can do. If you've done this job to the complete best of your ability, you will have just scrolled over right here, as you can see, and look on the bottom right of Google Sheet, it already calculates the sum for you. Look at that. You didn't have to even add that up, right? This is on average how many things that you could do in a given day. Or if you're very good at Excel and formulas, which I'm assuming that most of you are, but I'll do an equal sign, I'll do a sum, and look, it already wants to fill it in. I just hit return and it already calculated it for me. So these are the things that you could do if you wanted to calculate the time and how much a given day. Now, why am I recommending that you do this? It's because you'll start to realize how much time do you have in your given day. I've had people do these exercises and they've never done this so comprehensive. They kind of know what their calendar is and they would block off some times and stuff like that. But I would say, how many people will go into the detail of this and really calculate how many hours do they have in a given day? And this should add up to 24 hours, or sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a little bit more, but at least it gives you an idea. The next column is column 3. How many hours does this activity take in a given day? Let me see if I can do this. So for example, if I'm looking at this, get ready in the morning, I have to do that 7 days a week. So instead of, one of the cool things about formulas, you could do an equal sign and you could say, what's this cell times star, which is the time symbol, times 7. Look at it, hit return, enter, and it already calculates it for you. I really like these easy math things. Now, not everything you do is going to take 7 hours a day or do 7 days a week, right? For example, commute to morning, you only do 1 hour in the morning, if you work Monday through Friday, then look, you would just put 5 hours a week that you commute, et cetera, et cetera. And so there is 24 hours in a day, and there are 160 hours in a week. And so what ends up happening is once you do this exercise, you'll start to see, am I doing over 160 hours worth of work? If you are, guess what? You're overcommitted. You need to pull back. If you're under, then there's only two options. Either you didn't add stuff and that you need to do it, that you weren't that comprehensive, or it was accurate, but you end up filling it in with something else or other distractions. And the only way to be very thorough is to actually, count your hours and count your days and where the time is going. But listen, in my profession, when I was a manager, I actually had to do two roles, meaning I had my job and another person's job. And so when my manager asked me, Tim, how, like, you have all this stuff that you need to do, I need you to do more stuff, I basically used this to show them where my time was going. Hey, these are how many meetings I have. This is how many hours. This is how much I dedicate to this. And guess what? The moment that I supplied this to my manager, she couldn't complain. She could say, wow, all right, you are actually fully committed and you are doing a lot more than what's expected of you, and then the question then becomes not do more. It's like, okay, what can we take off your plate? So it really cuts through the BS of people who say, oh, I'm too busy. Well, can you really look at how productive you are? I've even calculated how long it takes for me to even eat. So those are the important things. So then the last couple of columns is column 4 is the priority. So this, I'm going to go back to the presentation. So let's show you this. This is an important concept that I think that we may have mentioned before, maybe not, but this is what I shared with Brian. This is what I want to share with all of you. Every single task or duty that you take on your given plate can be prioritized to these 3 categories. Something that's very important, something that's important or somewhat important. Or if you're talking about the business world, it's something called an immediate business need, a significant business enhancement, or a nice to have. And the reason why I like those terms is because it really cuts through all the different things that people think that they should do when they shouldn't really be doing it. And I like the idea of very important, important, and somewhat important, because guess what? Some people know, hey, I'm doing it because it's important to me. But yes, but on all the scales of importance, you still have to factor it in. This is the hardest thing for people to do, is to prioritize all the things that they do. So in the business world, immediate business need is, what are you doing, and does it actually is it an immediate business need? Does it actually generate revenue for the company? Like, are we making promises to our customers or clients and we're failing to do that? That is an immediate business need. So for example, the website is down. Do you say, well, I'll schedule that and I'll do that later? No, our customers expect that the website is up. That's an immediate business need. Should I do this task or this task? Well, if I make this phone call, I could end up getting some revenue for the company. That's more important. And a significant business enhancement might be, I have a flyer that I'm sending out to help promote my business. Now, people are going to hear about it and it's working. I'm getting some business, but wouldn't it be better if I turned it into a video? Yeah, but your flyer is kind of working right now. Doing a video would potentially make it much better and easier for people to watch. So yeah, that might be a significant business enhancement, but it's not necessarily immediate business need. So that's how I would categorize that. And then a nice to have would be, how many times people might say, well, I want to improve something. Maybe you have your flyer for your business or something like that. And you're like, I want to make the flyer better. Right? Or you have a website and you're like, I want to improve the website. I want to see what mistakes I have, or maybe any grammatical errors, or improve the questions, make them much shorter as part of my FAQ page. Again, these are all examples that I'm using because everything you should do should be sorted into these 3 categories. So going back to the exercise, right? you should actually say, is this a 1, an immediate business need, right? Or very important, or is it a 2, a significant business enhancement, or is it a 3, a nice to have? And so that will help categorize everything. So for example, if I was looking at at this thing, and I'm like, Tim, I filled this whole out, I'm overcommitted, I'm doing all these other things, and I start doing this prioritizing, and I'm like, washing dishes, is that an immediate business need and significant? Maybe it's a nice to have, right? So what I would want you all to do is, once you sort all these out, then take as the bonus task to say, can I delegate this out to somebody? Now, if you're in a family and you might say, man, I've been doing this, should I ask my partner to take this over, right? To see, can they help me? I really see them. And maybe it's a conversation. Hey, my wife, can you please do the dishes, or at least do the dishes on the weekends while I'm working, or something like that? Can we come to a new arrangement? And what if she says yes? Okay, great. Well, that could be, if you're washing dishes 0.25 times 5 days a week, that's you now have almost 2 hours back in your day, right? Or 2.5 hours, whatever the math comes out to. So these are the things that you have to start taking into your time of chronologically, and what it's going to make the most difference. So again, just for the sake of time for this training, I don't want to pause anymore and give you more time to work on it. I'm just going to assume that you guys are going to go back and work on this if you really care about, figuring out where your time is going. And once you do this, you can't actually have an excuse that I don't have time. I don't want you to be able to use that in your vocabulary anymore as leaders of Elective Society. I want you to say, if somebody asks you to do something and you want to do it, don't say, I don't have a time. I want you to say, I'm sorry, that's not part of my priorities. Much different. People may not like that sound of that, but you have a certain priorities. A no is, it's not important enough for me to take on or drop something else off my plate. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. And so let's talk about habits of success now. So when it comes to habits of success, I love this quote: we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. So one of my favorite books was Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss, if you don't know, he's a very famous entrepreneur. He wrote a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. He has his own podcast. He interviewed billionaires, icons, world-class performers, and he asked them a series of questions. And he wanted to say, what are your habits? What do you do every day? How do you operate? And guess what? If you want to find out how to be successful, you model after some of the most successful people in the world, and you do what they do. And so I'm going to share with you, again, there's so many different habits, so many other different things in these books and stuff like that. So I'm only giving you the tip of the iceberg, but these are the 3 most important things that actually stood out to me. Number 1 is a gratitude journal. All right. And this was shocking because I remember my dad having a journal, and it was one of these thick binders like this, and it was very pretty. It was like leather bound. I remember it as a kid, and he would always write in it. And I'm like, that sounds like takes up a lot of time. Who has time to write down, oh, let me write down all my little thoughts and feelings for the day. But what I discovered is that there's something called the 5-minute journal, and I bought it. It's right here on my bookshelf. I could actually reach it if I wanted to do it. Actually, let me see if I can reach it right now. I'm going to grab it. Here it is. I bought this in 2017, right when I first read this in Tim Ferriss's book. And the first, 20 pages talk about positive psychology and all the sourcing of why this journal is so effective. And again, I posted the study right there in the bottom of the screen, 2003 study. Daily gratitude journals leads to better sleep, right? And it makes you more resilient, greater well-being, and better ability to handle change. Reduction in physical pain. Look at all these positive benefits for just taking 5 minutes to fill something like this out. So again, this was $20 when I bought it, because this was the book that they recommended. I don't think that you guys need to do that. I actually have my own, and that's actually a snapshot picture of it. I buy it on Amazon, and it's like $5. But guess what? Don't even spend $5. I'm actually going to give you the 5 questions to ask yourself every day. And if you implement this, you're going to be more successful. The second thing is exercise. Now, it took me a long time I always knew that the importance of exercise. I always saw these big CEOs and successful people talk about how they wake up very, very early in the morning and exercise. And for me, that was very, very difficult. And I would sometimes do work out in the middle of the day. And I felt that for many years that really helped, like during my lunchtime or whenever I could work out. And because then I got new energy to last me. It almost felt like I was 2 different work days. And then, or some people do work out in the evenings, but I did the hard work. I eventually got a workout partner who also works, and we basically wake up in the morning. We wake up at 4:30, and I eat something, and then I do whatever I need to do, and then from 5:30 to 6:30 we work out. And we put it on FaceTime and we get the time in. And so we do that on Tuesdays and Thursdays and on Saturdays and Sundays, but we don't do it very early on the weekends. But listen, it made a difference. We basically, the science is in. You get more energy throughout the day, you burn more calories and things like that. And the reason why I love this scene of this woman in a wheelchair is because all of us can give excuses on why we can't work out. One of the biggest excuses that I often hear, which I'm actually empathetic. I don't mean to be so dismissive when it says to be as an excuse, but if you have children, it is very difficult, to find the time to exercise, right? But what I can say is I'm going to give you 2 extremes. One is, how important is your health? Right? How important is if, you're not going to live a long time in order to enjoy and spend time with your kids? What if you're like, Tim, you don't know my story. You don't know how much I struggle. I'm working, taking care of my kids. I said, okay, fine. Man, can you even do anything? Like, can you walk upstairs? Can you, not take the elevator? If you have a child, can you actually hold a child and do some squats with the child, right? Whatever you can do to get your exercise in, get it in, right? And one of the things that I really loved, because I learned this concept from Tim Ferriss and others, the reason why we don't do something is because we make it much bigger than it really is, so that we cause it to procrastinate. For example, you might say, Tim, I don't have 1 hour like you do in order to work out in the morning with a buddy and stuff like that. Listen, the reason why I have a buddy is because having the accountability partner makes it more likely that you work out. All right. I can't tell you yet. What day is today? Thursday. I woke up. I was supposed to wake up at 4:30. I woke up at 5. I wanted to cancel on him so bad. Like, you didn't understand. By me going upstairs, I'm half asleep, trying to drink in some like tea and caffeine. I'm lying down. He calls me on the FaceTime. He's like, Tim, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm dying. I'm tired. I don't want to work out. He's like, come on, let's do it. And we did it. And I felt better from it. Right. But here's what I'm saying is, going back to my original point is, if you don't have an hour to work out, then you work out for 5 minutes. If you tell me you don't work out for 5 minutes, I'm telling you to work out for 1 minute. Okay. Because what ends up happening is, the moment that you start working out, you're like, I'm going to do, 10, 15 jumping jacks. I'm going to do some push-ups. I'm going to do some sit-ups. I'm going to do something. I'm going to do some planks, right? Whatever it may be. Once you do it, you start to feel alive. You feel the blood circulating. You're like, maybe I can go another 5 minutes, whatever you can do. But that is the baby steps that you need to take in order to start exercising. And then the last thing is meditation. Now, some of you may have difficulty meditating. Like, Tim, I can't focus. I can't concentrate when I meditate. My mind goes everywhere. Some people pray. Some people can do, it's as simple as closing your eyes and taking some deep breaths. It's that simple. I will send out a recording on the Telegram WhatsApp of my favorite guided white light meditation. And what it is it's just a soft voice. And you just, you hear her explain how your head's getting heavy and then your shoulders all the way down to your toes. And it's like 8 minutes long, 10 minutes long. And I'm telling you, after you're done, you'll feel like $1,000,000. Your body will feel actually rested, right? And for those of you who are very spiritual and like I am as well, it's connecting to your higher self, connecting to that consciousness. I feel that when I meditate in the morning, it's almost like we are the phones, and that is the source. And I need to recharge my source so that I can go throughout my day more connected, more productive, happier, and more resilient. So who wouldn't want to be recharged like that? And so that's the view and attitude that I have towards it. So if you can do that, you will be more successful. And I would say, here's my request to all of you is all of this can be done. 5-minute journal, 5-minute exercise, 5 minutes of meditation. If you can do this for 1 week, just start off just like, okay, I'm just going to do it for 1 week because Tim asked us to do it. I'm going to do it 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, do it. And I'd like you to share with in the community, what is the result of you doing these 5-minute things. Okay. And then here's the answers to the questions in the journal in case you guys don't want to spend any money and buy a journal. Now, for full confession, I don't follow the instructions of the journal. They recommend that you do it in the evening, in the morning, but I don't believe in making recommendations that I don't follow myself. I have been able to do it just every morning, and that's what works for me. So some of these questions could be divided up into evening or morning, but I've phrased them as if you were going to do them just in the morning. Question number 1, what were the amazing moments yesterday? You start thinking about all the amazing things that happened, right? Number 2, how can I make today awesome, right? There was always a question in the journals that I didn't like. It's like, what could I've done better today? I'm like, no. What happened exactly the way it happened. You don't need to go back and beat yourself up as if you're not good enough or you should be doing something. You can say, yesterday happened, but tomorrow or today, I'm going to do something different, right? And what is that? What could you do to make today awesome? Gratitude is the right attitude. What are you grateful for? All the different things. And then goals and plans. So what will you accomplish today? Now, I'll confess, when I write my to-do list of everything that I need to do, I'll sometimes rewrite it, even though I've already had some of those things. I rewrote them yesterday. It's just a way of prioritizing. Okay, out of all these things that I want to do, I'm going to put a star. I'm going to circle it. This I need to do first before I do anything else. And you circle it and you star it and you don't do anything else. Once you finish your journaling and you do your exercise meditation, don't do anything else, but do that first. And then once you complete that, you'll be so much happier and productive for the day. And then affirmations. Remember, I said that the most 2 powerful words in the English language is I am, right? And with the placebo effect, with the studies, with everything, if you actually declare what your affirmations are for that day, you are going to help you manifest that and focus on that. So those are the questions. Feel free to write those down and use them. And then I always like to give a bonus. So if you can't, let's just say if you do all those 3 things, you journal, you as your plan, you meditate, you exercise. If you could squeeze one thing in there, I would actually read, because not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. That's just my alarm telling me, I got to wrap up and get ready for the next training. So these are great books to read. Read something that's positive, spiritual books, biographies, success and leadership books, anything that you can do that helps stimulate your mind, start your day off with improving yourself. It's just a way of investing it. So that's what I'd like you all to do. So now we're going to do an activity, and let's just say we're going to take 5 minutes to do it, because then I'm going to then wrap up. Actually, you know what? For the sake of time, I want you to actually do this activity on your own. So here's what it is. In this spreadsheet that I gave you, look at on the next sheet. It's called Create the Ideal Schedule. Now, this I think is even more important than that first activity that we did. You know why? Because once you discover what is all your time, what's on your plate, why do you keep reacting to everybody else's schedule? Why don't you actually create your own schedule of not what everybody else is supposed to do, but what you really want to do? And so what would be the time that you'd like to wake up in the morning? What time would be the time you'd like to go to bed at night? And then, because I've asked all of you to do that Habits of Success challenge, choose some time in the morning that you can work on that. And you say, Tim, I don't know, I can't do that in the morning. I'm only asking you to do 15 minutes and then block out 30 minutes, right? Because this was, always double, always assume double. And if you can't do it in the morning, I don't care. Do it at the lunchtime, do it midday, wherever you can fit it in, do that. And then you fill that in and you say, what would I do on my Saturdays? What would I do on my Mondays? What time would I wake up? And here's what's going to happen. Once you create your ideal schedule and draft it all out, put all your responsibilities on there so that you take care of it. And you've probably all kind of done this already with your class schedule and you've seen it, but maybe you've never filled your whole schedule as much as I'm asking you to do it. I don't want you to do it on your Google Calendar. I want you to do it here first so you can play around with it. Then the next level would be then transferring it over to your Google Calendar. And what's going to happen is, guess what? Give yourself permission to not implement it perfectly. But if you give it some chances, you will strive. And because that's what I want you to do is you're their own superhero in your story. And so you need to strive to who do you want to be and implement that calendar because you're going to be happier off. So please insert your full sleep, put that 30-minute morning routine, 5-minute journal, 5-minute exercise, 5-minute meditation, block off times for all your time commitments that are really important to you. So again, take the time to do that because I still have a couple more slides I want to share with you. And then we'll wrap up the training. Leadership qualities. Now, you've probably heard of all the different leadership qualities. This has to go with mastering success habits. You've seen it: being honest, communicating, having values, having purpose, passion, all these other things. Out of all the different qualities of what you think a leader should be, I want to tell you what I believe is the most important leadership quality. You ready? Here it is: integrity. Now, when most people hear the word integrity, they assume the first definition. Okay. The first definition of integrity is somebody who's honest, strong moral principles. That's only one definition of integrity. I want to focus on the second definition that most people don't realize, and that is being complete, being whole, sound, the quality of being undivided and unimpaired. So I love this cartoon because here, if you notice, it says voters demand integrity from the election system. Why? Because they say, if I'm going to go to vote and I hit the button, I expect that vote is counted, right? That's what you expect. That's what should be working. But guess what? What does this person say? Who knows? Someday we'll demand it from the people we put into office. How many times do politicians make promises and then never follow through with them? And that happens with people all the time. You know, people who make promises and all this other kind of stuff. So I had to take a lot of leadership courses and I learned some very important concepts. And the biggest place that I learned about integrity was Landmark Worldwide. I've talked about them before. I gave them a little plug. Again, changed my life. I was able to transform my relationship with my wife because of it. They now do all Zoom trainings. Very, very good conference. But after the conference, they have advanced level programs. I remember there's a 4-month leadership program. I taught and was the head coach for that 4-month leadership program. And they took integrity to the next level. They say integrity is doing what you know to do, doing what you said you were going to do, doing it completely, doing it as it was expected to be done, and doing it as it was meant to be done, and doing it on time. Like, imagine that's your level of integrity. And so I couldn't remember all of those ways to be in integrity. So I came up with an acronym, CASEM, because there used to be a famous disc jockey named Casey Kasem. For those of you who are a little bit older, than the traditional college age student. And so he passed away, or, I don't think he's alive anymore, but Kasem plus T, Kasem NT. And that's how I remember it. So I'll give you a very quick example. Remember how I told you I do dishes? Well, I hate doing dishes. And once I actually learned about integrity, I took my dishwashing game to the next level. Here's what I was doing. I was doing the dishes, and then I was basically I would rinse them off, put them in the dishwasher, and close the dishwasher. And I'm like, oh, dishwasher's full. Guess I can't do these dishes. But I'm like, whoa, wait, integrity is doing what you know to do, doing what you said you were going to do, doing it completely as it was meant to be done, expected to be done, and doing on time. And so what I started to realize is, wow, how many times do I actually cut corners? And so I was going like, man, to do the dishes, you have to do all of the dishes. And this showed up in other areas of my life too, whether I was putting a furniture piece together for IKEA for my wife. I would like set it all up and I'm like, I'm done. But then I would leave the boxes and all the tools and everything like that. It's like, you didn't complete the job. This wasn't as part of the job. So we do this in everywhere of our lives. So I would like to invite you to take your integrity to the next level. Now, people always say, man, I can't be perfect. I'm not an angel. I can't always be in integrity. Yes, you can't always be in integrity, but you can always restore integrity. And this is something that I learned. And here's my little like cheat sheet for you to remember. If you were supposed to show up to work at 8 a.m. and you show it up at 8:05 and you're late, then you're out of integrity. You were supposed to be there. It was expected to be done, et cetera, et cetera. So do you tell your boss, oh, I'm so sorry, there was traffic on the way? No, you basically apologize. Hi, boss, I was supposed to be here at 8 o'clock. It's now 8:05. And what most people will do is just give you excuses, but you are all leaders. This is what I want to teach all of you in Electus Society is do this second thing. What will you put in place as a system in the future to ensure that it doesn't happen again? So what does that mean? It might mean putting in places, you might have to leave your house earlier, right? You might have to set an alarm. I can tell you that most all the reasons why people don't do what they said they're going to do boils down to those several things. Either people didn't put it in their calendar, they didn't put a buffer, and they didn't set an alarm, right? And they just didn't stick and did what they need to do. If you could do those things, you represent 1% of the population that we can count on people to do stuff. So that's my conclusion. The biggest challenge is time. Sort your priorities, high, medium, low. If you're overcommitted, start delegating, take stuff off your plate, saying no, thank you, definitely be affirmative, give reasons why, and then how you can help them. Journal, plan, exercise, meditate, and read. Okay, the biggest leadership quality out there that's missing in most people is integrity, and it's doing things completely. And all the things that I said, doing what you know to do, doing what you said you would do completely as it was expected to be done, meant to be done, and doing it on time. And restoring integrity, apologize and say what you're making a commitment to put in place in the future so it never happens again. And I can tell you, when you do that, there is no more back and forth. Every time as a manager, if I had somebody who took responsibility and said that they were going to do it, I'm telling you, I had nothing else to say, because that's all you want is you want people to do what they said they were going to do. So unfortunately, I wish I had some more time, but right now, I just posted in the chat is the Google form. So please click on that link and save that. And I'll send out the recording, but I have another minute. Does anybody have any last minute quick questions that I could help answer for them regarding this training? I'd like to help you, support you before I run off to my next training. Does anybody have any questions? Going once? Princess, are you there? You have a quick question?
But I just would like to thank you for this session. It was eye-opener. I've been guilty of so many stuff. So yes, thank you so much, Tim.
I appreciate that. Yes, but thank you. And remember, the biggest way that you guys can thank me is make sure you do these assignments, and I'll give a little plug. I'm really excited because, in 5 minutes, I'm going to be doing another presentation. Empire State College invited me to actually do a free a training for them. It's actually, I proposed it. All of you, if you're part of different student governments, and I haven't ever spoken to your student government or club or organizations, I always love to do a free training, and they invite me in, and I'm going to be doing high performance communication. And then at the end of the training, I'm going to plug. And if they want to bring me back for future trainings, I'm going to do that. So it's always another way for me to help spread the knowledge, train more student leaders, and fulfill my mission of helping develop the next generation of leaders. So, thank you all so much. Don't forget to complete the exercise, and have a wonderful Thursday, and we'll talk soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good one, everyone.